Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today I am absolutely delighted to be back and joined by Gary Brown from DebtRegister. Gary, how are you?
Very good, thank you, Toby. How are you?
Very good indeed, thanks. Very good indeed. Listen, great to have you on the show. I like the company so much, it worked for us that we wanted to have you on it. So as a sort of bastardization of Victor Khayyam's message from many years ago. Tell us a little bit about it. Look, I think it's a phenomenal and fascinating area that you're working in. It's a development of a business idea that you've been in for many years now, and you're innovating and pivoting into something very exciting. Give us a little bit of the background into DebtRegister.
So we started DebtRegister probably 8-9 years ago in our commercial debt recovery company, and using it to help us generate leverage on debts where we weren't getting any traction. And ultimately, we were chasing kind of large international debts. And we were successful in collecting a very large debt from a company out in Saudi Arabia. And at that point, we kind of realized that we were onto something. And then over the years, we've been kind of finessing the internal product. And then following COVID, we decided to try and produce something to help other companies collect their debts, because we see the landscape with the how high amount of borrowing kind of stimulating payments at the moment. And what's going to happen as far as the high volume of business failure, and also, the kind of cascade knock-on effect of what that will create. The businesses are going to need assistance in prioritising their payments. The legal process in the UK has been pretty useless, in all fairness, and has been for a number of years. The courts have upped their fees. The amount of money that you can recover has been reduced. If you don't have a claim, say, for example, under £10,000, you can't recover your cost for any representation. Pre-pandemic, you were looking at 8 months before you had a hearing. Post-pandemic, I think, truth is anyone's guess. Probably looking at 15, 18 months, 2 years. So
it's extraordinary, isn't it?
It's worrying from a legal perspective. I personally believe legal action is dead as far as it comes to commercial debt. I don't think the legal action has supported the business owners and the stakeholders for many years, and I think the pandemic has only made that worse, and it's probably highlighted the incompetence of the courts and the legal process, and their lack of investment in technology to make them provide a service that can be have consistency throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, and I think this is really interesting because we've all I think anyone watching it would have had their frustrations with chasing debt, and then the legal constraints of what it's never a good look or a pleasant process to go down the courts in that sort of that sort of room, which probably leads to write-offs in a number of different areas. So you've seen that sort of issue, and as you said, look, the investment in tech has been sparse in the legal world for some time. Tell us a little bit about how the issue you've seen and how you're looking to solve it.
Well, I think the problem that a lot of businesses incur is having to write debts off. You sell your goods and services, and people should be polite enough to pay you. I think that's a reasonable request, but unfortunately in business that isn't the case, and that's a situation that seems to get worse over the years. So the mechanisms available to the business owner is to look at taking legal action, or to use a debt collection agency. Ultimately, both of which take too long before any real consequences is delivered to the debtor. So if you have a business today, somebody owed you money and issue proceedings, then you could put in a spurious defence, and it might be, as I said, 15 months, 2 years before you have a court date. At which time, if my business is still trading post-pandemic, I'll meet the person on the steps of the courts, apologise profusely, shake their hand, give them a cheque for the debt, and each party will go their own separate way. And the reality of that situation is at no point until the judgment has been awarded does anything affect the credit profile of the company that's owes the money. So the time period is too long. This is the way that we highlighted our product can help, and that in a normal chase process, you're looking at 10 weeks from the issuing of an LBA to the issuing of court action to summary judgment, which is effectively judgment awarded by default, and 10 weeks before it hits the credit profile. With DebtRegister, which uses the debtor's credit profile as leverage, that all happens within a week. So if you don't make payment of the debt, we're going to log notification of the default to the credit reference agencies, and we partner with Dun & Bradstreet and Experian. And as a result, as you found out for yourself, debtors pay, because debtors are going to be making decisions on who do I pay. There needs to be, a different outlook. We all look at chasing the sale and coming out with our kind of USP in business. It's a sense your invoices will soon need their own kind of unique pain point, I guess, because you're going to be competing against other people's invoices, because cash flow is going to become, restrictive.
And so this then comes into that, to recognise that particular issue, to recognise this sort of squeeze point that's out there in the marketplace, and saying that this is something which can save enormous amounts of time, effort, and money in the whole process as well, right?
Yeah. So what we're seeing from our own use of the platform is that it changes the energy of a business. You can spend weeks and months having your credit control team chase people for money, but if there's no real consequence driving the need for them to make payment to you, then you'll just keep on that kind of merry-go-round, in a sense. You're stuck on that carousel of chasing. What happens with DebtRegister, because it draws a line in the sand and says, hey, if you don't make payment to us within 7 days, we're going to log this notification of default to credit reference agencies. It stops the carousel and requires the person to kind of get off and chase you and say, oh, I need to pay this, which is, your team saw, I think the debt that you guys put on there was over 250 days overdue, and it was paid within 4 days of the debt being put onto the platform.
It was a quick resolution.
It's great. It works. We built a piece of kit that delivers. As long as it's a commercial debt, it doesn't make a difference. How big that debt is. DebtRegister will deliver the consequence, and there's quite a number of interesting bits of technology that we've bolted into the platform that help us make sure that we're engaging with the right people.
And where did that tech come into it for you? So I think it's fair to say that tech isn't necessarily your out and out background. Tell us about how you saw technology and were able to adapt to it to bring that to value with your other experience.
Well, as you're right, I'm a non-technical founder, which brings its challenges when you're talking to tech people. We've added kind of more modern common sense, I guess, using tech to the chase process. So like standard stuff that's available in the market, like tracking emails, like gone are the days of needing a read receipt. You can embed a packet within the email that as soon as it gets oxidized, lets you know whether the email has been received or not. Using technology like that gives us better transparency that the debtor we're chasing is, reading the communications and the communications are being delivered, which enables us to drive a workflow based on the outcome of that communication being confirmed, which increases debtor engagement. I think the other thing that we've been using technology is to afford the debtor good transparency on what's outstanding by giving the debtor their own login to a portal so they can see full outstanding details of the claim, and also having the ability for the debtor to confirm whether the debt's disputed, whether the debt's been paid previously, or whether the debt's being paid. And we also push your bank details with the claim that we issue, so that you guys get paid directly, rather than if you're going down the legal route or going down the debt collection route, invariably it's the further solicitors or the debt collection agency that gets paid, and then you have to wait, another 3 or 4 weeks before they discharge the funds back to yourself.
Moving from there, I think the interesting thing for me there is as a non-tech founder, using tech solutions is it's that logic which is so important. So we see an awful lot of businesses in the fintech space that are tech-driven founders who are maybe missing the sort of commercial element of what's important, to that, and that's why you see an awful lot of businesses with great ideas floundering, because they haven't got that sort of real commerciality to what the problem they're solving is in there. I think what's interesting about you doing it the other way is bringing great tech, but alongside it with a workflow that's really based on solving the actual issues. You can collide two worlds together there to add real value to what you're looking to do. Is that something you're seeing the advantage of?
Yeah, I think, given that I understand the industry, I've been in it for 20 plus years. I know how debts work. I know that leverage is the key to every debt getting paid. If someone's, not paying you, that having that knowledge and experience has helped me direct my development team accordingly to make sure that we got a decent piece of kit delivered. I think we were surprised how good it is out the box. I think that's a good thing from our perspective. And I know that there's a number of things in our dev queue that will enable us to make it even better. So that's also, kind of promising from our perspective.
Yeah, I think that was an interesting thing that you said to me, where it was you were surprised at how well it had worked so quickly. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I think, well, I did a development project 4 or 5 years ago. I spent a reasonable amount of money on a different project and that didn't work out, but I learned a lot from that project that's helped me on this project. But you never know with technology, because I think there is that risk that you build something and you generally have to commit a reasonable amount financially to try and get the experiment, to get your MVP out there. When we first kind of put it out there, we were chasing American debt on behalf of one of our US corporates, and the debts that they loaded were 392 days overdue. And off that first portfolio, I think we recovered 87.2% success rate on debts that were like over a year overdue. And we were kind of pitching it thinking, well, if we get 50%, that would be good. So to exceed that is, brilliant. And I think the more that, we evolve the platform, we can get that better. I think, the fact that there is going to be competition for payments. There is going to be, companies will be paying the companies that they need to continue to trade. So, for example, in your sector, in the recruitment sector, if someone's already fulfilled all their vacancies and are no longer recruiting, there's no urgency to pay the recruitment agency. It's a bit like, if you're a news agent and you have a Christmas supplier for your Christmas wrapping paper and your Christmas cards, the likelihood of them being a priority payment in February is quite low.
Yeah.
So trying to create a leverage point, I'm going to put you on stop. Well, that moment disappears. So once you can't put that person on stop, if that company has limited cash flow, then they're going to obviously make payment to the companies they need. They're going to need their newspapers in the shop. So the newspaper supplier gets paid first. Staff get paid. You need the heating, the electric, the alarm company. All of those key suppliers get paid first. And then it's the matter of, well, what money's left and who else needs to be paid. DebtRegister puts you on that priority, because DebtRegister is saying, okay, well, if you don't pay us, we're going to leverage your whole supply chain. We're going to tell all your suppliers you're not paying people. And from a business, owner, people that are making the payments, it's generally too big to gamble with. So that's why it prioritizes your payment.
Yeah, which is beautifully simple in its execution, isn't it? Tell me a little bit. Look, this is always a concern, and I think I probably know the answer to what you're going to say here. But there's always a concern about the sort of customer experience of when debt management comes into play, right? You're there, and you don't want to be seen as the bad guys, for one of a less mature announcement of it, in terms of how you go in and do that. And obviously, with this sort of leverage or threat, as you want, whichever way you want to fall on that, it can be damaging to client relationships. How do you manage that side of it as well?
You're right. I think that there are always companies that are going to be maybe more sensitive than others. I think, whilst I mentioned earlier that we're a lot quicker than legal action, what we're finding is most companies see that we're a lesser evil, if that's the right word. The solution that we've built is less final. Legal action, generally, if you've had to take legal action against one of your clients, you don't generally want to deal with them again if you've had to take it that far.
Yeah.
I think DebtRegister kind of has a very reasonable consequence. There's nothing really unreasonable about saying, well, look, we're going to give you 7 days to pay us, and if you don't pay us, we're going to report you to credit reference agencies. I think most larger corporates do it. We all know that if we don't pay our credit card bills, it's going to affect our credit score. Yeah. It's quite a common practice to happen. And all we're really doing is bringing that into the commercial world and making it accessible for all parties through a pretty straightforward and slick platform.
Yeah. And this is an interesting time as well. As you said, look, this is something you've accelerated to the wider market. I know you've got noble intent in some of the things you're looking to do with it as well. And there's some fairly significant advertising you're going to be putting behind it to really sort of push it forward as a brand and business at the moment, because we're in this incredible time right now for entrepreneurialism within the business. I know that sort of sounds a little bit insensitive to be looking at this, but there is huge opportunities in a market like we're sat in today, right? And what we are, if you speak to anyone, you're talking about an impending increase of debt globally at the moment, with with very little sort of forecast as to what that looks like in the new world. Tell us a little bit about why this is a good time to be sort of advancing the business, and what you're seeing and what you're anticipating happening in the marketplaces over the next year or two.
Yeah, I think it doesn't take a chief economist to realise that the business world is going to be struggling. I think we've all known that we're kind of being given as a business owner a task to budget and work out. There's going to be a downturn in businesses. Obviously, there's some businesses that benefit from the pandemic, but the majority of us are probably, having a downturn to business. And as business owners and business leaders, we're being asked to prepare for this downturn, but no one's telling us how long that downturn is going to be. I think we all hoped when it started in March 2020 that we'd be well out of the woods by now. We don't know how far it is, and the undergrowth seems to be growing quicker than our exit strategy. So we are confident, or you can confidently predict that business is going to struggle as a result of what's happened, and there's going to be massive knock-on effects from business to business. So I unfortunately do foresee that cash and getting paid is going to be more challenging. I say unfortunate because I want all businesses to thrive. I've spent 18 plus years building one of my companies in the kind of debt area, and unfortunately there are people that have spent just as much hard work and energy building their companies, and they're not going to survive. And I think that's tragic, because it's through no fault of their own. And if we can
genuine force majeure, isn't it, in that?
Yeah, and if we, DebtRegister, as I say, it kind of is much better than we thought out of the box. So the long-term plan for DebtRegister is to offer all companies free trials, free credits, and to replenish those free credits every year, so they can load debts in, and hopefully that will help some of the smaller businesses get their debts paid, because there's a massive repercussion of outstanding invoices. The cash flow of the business is the lifeblood it was before the pandemic. It's only going to be more. As business owners, if you're not getting paid, you stress more, because you're waiting, well, how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? The volume of chasing increases, that puts more pressure on you as a business owner. So, hopefully through working with larger corporates and selling licenses through larger corporates, that will free up the ability to offer our services to some of the smaller companies and help them navigate their way out of this current situation.
That sort of philanthropic angle is quite interesting, and and I know it's there's certain things there that you and I have spoken about in the past that sort of really pushed that. What's been your sort of your purpose, your motivation behind that?
Just the way I am. I don't. I just think if you can help people, you help people. I think that's where we should be. I know you're very similar to me in that vein. Really, it's just how life should be. I think I was raised that way by my parents and my grandparents, and to me, it's the way that business should be. If we can, help somebody, and you've got something that can help them, then try where you can. Really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully agree with that. So just coming in and looking at this a little bit further. So we've got this sort of mounting debt crisis that is potentially behind this pandemic. The sort of tsunami of bounce back loans and CBILS that will be growing back and maturing over the course of the next couple of years. I've got a copy of the Sunday Times here where we talk about tenants brace for clashes with owners as spring cliff edge looms, as sort of daunting headlines that are out there in the marketplace at the moment. What are things that people can be doing to get themselves ahead of this and get their house in order?
I think it's interesting. The biggest problem that most companies are going to have immediately is going to be where they can't predict where to prioritize their debts. And I think prior to the pandemic, as businesses, we would be more tolerant on slow payment. We would kind of be more forgiving of the relationship. And I think there's a big blind spot. We have no idea what any company in this country has done, apart from your own company, in the last 10 months. the government have given us, or all businesses, an extra 3-month extension on filing accounts. So we've got another 11 months ahead of us as a blind spot. So we're in the middle of this company reporting blind spot, so to speak. So all I would say is just try where possible to be consistently on top of the debtors that you're chasing, and where you feel that you have adequate concern, don't leave it as long as you would previously, because bad debts are going to get higher, and get your debts chased and escalate them externally, as soon as you can. I wouldn't be too comfortable as a business holding any debts at the moment. They're probably anywhere between 60 plus, 90 plus at the most, because everyone's going to take. Well, I think everyone's going to start taking advantage.
And what's the sort of standard for that for you?
I think historically I would still be the same as 60 to 90, but I just think companies themselves let debts go too far. I think from what we see, it generally depends on business sector. What I see on the debt recovery business that I own, that it depends on different businesses and business types on when they pass the debts. Obviously, there's more emphasis on your own cash flow. So I think I would err caution on anything, because I think at the moment all businesses are being kind of propped up by loans. Not all, but a lot of businesses are being propped up by loans, and therefore that's where you've got to be more concerned. If you looked at an age debt report pre-pandemic, most businesses would probably be putting in a bad debt provision of 1-2%. Post-pandemic, maybe the provision will be more 10-15%.
Yeah, and so when you're looking at and sort of growing the business as you are at the moment, and sort of increasing the sort of visibility of DebtRegister, tell us a little bit about some of the companies that you're able to help and who should be getting in touch with you.
I think the reality is there is no kind of company type per se, because of the fact that DebtRegister works on commercial debt. So I guess that's the only criteria. Do you sell to other companies? DebtRegister can communicate in French, Italian, Spanish, and German, so it can also help with international debt. One of the things that we made DebtRegister very good at is it doesn't care about jurisdiction clause. So when you're chasing international debts, jurisdiction clause adds into the kind of cost-effective equation. So it kind of removes the, this isn't cost-effective to pursue. And the same for lower balance debts. DebtRegister enables you to charge interest and compensation under the Late Payment of Commercial Debts Act. So even if you've got a low balance debt, DebtRegister can still help you. And the idea really for DebtRegister is to try and provide a cost neutral service. So where the interest and compensation has been added, that can be recovered from the debtor. And that's automatically calculated when you upload the debt if you choose to add it into your parameters.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, Gary, with what you're talking about there. But also tell us a little bit about what's coming forward and what you've got to look forward to. You mentioned before about investing in technology, making it even more intuitive and efficient. What's DebtRegister got in store for 2021?
I think our plan is to just grow what we've built. We want to take the product stateside, so that's obviously on our plan. We've built, or I'm building at the moment, a team around me to grow the business from PR, finance to advisors, and then at some point we'll probably look at some sort of investment. It's not on our radar at the moment. We've got adequate funds. We've been quite fortunate. We've sold a few licenses to corporates that this solves a problem that a lot of all corporates have. So when the debts are high numbers, the corporates are willing to pay accordingly. So from that perspective, I think we'll see what happens, but we do recognise that the platform has scalability, and we intend to try and ride the wave that's coming. So
this time next year, global domination.
Yeah, possibly.
Gary, listen, it's a fascinating business, and look, you told me to try it before we broadcasted, and put your confidence in the product, and hey presto, it was absolutely fantastic when we took it out. I'm looking forward to working with you a lot more in the future as well. For other people who watch this and want to find out a little bit more, who are going through similar sort of issues around that, what's the best way of them getting in touch with you?
They can either find me on LinkedIn, or they can go on our website, debtregister.com. There's an ability for a free trial. We're happy to let anybody go on the platform free of charge, like you did yourselves, and get their debts collected. We learn as much from people using this platform, so it's not all about, at this point, generating revenue. it's about making the user experience as slick as possible. So we value all feedback that we get. So, happy to help where we can.
Fantastic. Well, look, from my recommendation and my experience so far, I highly recommend everyone to get on board as well. It's been brilliant. Getting to know you, getting to find out a little bit more about the company, the product. Love talking to you about it again today, Gary. Thank you so much for coming on Fintech Focus TV. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you soon on another episode. Gary, thanks very much.
Thank you, Toby. Have a good day.